Putin. The call came after this week's drone strikes on Russia. Putin has warned Ukraine that a response is coming. Will Chinese weapons be used against Kiev? We look at how China is arming Russia against Ukraine's drones. Also, how India plans to build Rafale fighters at home. What are dark patterns online and how to avoid them? What is inside Donald Trump's phone? Why India-Bangladesh tensions are rising along the border, why sustainability makes sense for businesses and the economy, and why modern wars now come with video proof. Like they say, if it's not on social media, it did not happen. We'll discuss why countries now feel the need to show and tell. But first, the headlines. US President Donald Trump spoke with China's Xi Jinping today. The call comes as trade talks between both sides remain stalled. Trump says both leaders have invited each other for visits. Trade teams are expected to meet again in the coming days. Last month, both countries paused most tariffs for 90 days. Brazil's president accused Israel of premeditated genocide in Gaza. Lula da Silva made this comment during a visit to France. He said the conflict is harming both Israelis and Palestinians. The European Central Bank has cut interest rates to 2%. It says Europe is now better placed to face global uncertainty. This marks the bank's 8th cut since June last year. The ECB is trying to support a weakened Eurozone economy. Denmark plans to extend its ban on full-face Islamic veils. The new rule will cover schools and universities. Prayer rooms in universities may also be removed. The Danish Prime Minister has defended this move. She says democracy must come before religion. And Reddit has sued AI startup Anthropic. The social media platform says millions of user comments were taken without consent. The lawsuit was filed in California yesterday. It marks another clash over how AI firms use online content.
We don't want them.
This USA! Hey, 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 hey!
No fear! Refugees are welcome!
Ladies and gentlemen, may I please have your attention?
In 2017, Donald Trump was a mystery. No one knew what sort of president he would be. But 7 days into office, he gave us a glimpse. Trump imposed a travel ban on Muslim-majority countries. They called it a Muslim ban. In many ways, that set the blueprint. The disregard for laws, the open bigotry, all of it became evident with that one move. And 8 years later, we are seeing it again. President Donald Trump has ordered another travel ban. 12 countries face a complete ban, meaning no citizen from that country can travel to the United States. And 7 countries face a partial ban, meaning you can travel if you have a certain type of visa. First, let's look at the countries. Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. These 12 countries face a full ban. Meanwhile, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan and Venezuela face a partial ban. Put together, 19 countries will be affected by this move. A lot of these countries are Muslim majority, so Trump's critics are calling it a second Muslim ban. But what is the justification? Trump says these countries do not have a proper vetting process. As a result, they could send dangerous travelers to the US, maybe terrorists or criminals. And Trump gave the example of a recent attack in Colorado. A foreign national attacked a group of pro-Israel protesters in Colorado in the US, and this attacker injured at least 12 of them.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world.
Such attacks can cause sudden reactions, but here is the problem. The attacker in Colorado was from Egypt, but Egypt is not on Donald Trump's list. There is no partial or full ban on Egypt, which makes you wonder, why is that? Is it because Egypt is a key American ally, or is it because Donald Trump called its president his favorite dictator? This double standard is a problem. Trump's ban will come into effect on the 9th of June. If your visa is issued before that date, you can travel to the United States. If not, you cannot travel. As always, some people are exempt from all of this. Say you're an athlete at a global event, maybe next year's Football World Cup in the US. Well, then you can visit the country. Or maybe you have dual nationality, meaning you are a citizen of two countries. If one of those countries is not on the list, you can travel. Plus, some Afghans are exempt. If you're an Afghan with a special immigrant visa, you can travel to the United States of America. Now we come to the reactions. Somalia says it wants to work with the United States, so they are not criticizing Trump's move. But Venezuela is. They have flipped the logic on Trump. Venezuela says it is a risk for anyone to be in America and not the other way around.
Haga el esfuerzo.
Honestly, being in the US is a big risk for anyone, not just Venezuelans. If you're really that foolish, then go to the United States. Take your vacation days and go to the US. Go ahead, make the effort and go to the US. The people who govern the United States are bad people. It's fascism.
Within the United States, the Democrats are opposing this policy. They say it will isolate the United States. Rights groups are also against it. They say it's discriminatory and anti-immigration. The question is, what can they do about it? The move will be challenged in court. In fact, Trump's first travel ban was also challenged in court. The case went all the way up to the US Supreme Court. And in 2018, the top court upheld it, meaning the court supported Donald Trump's travel ban. And a big debate back then was about religion. All countries banned by Trump were Muslim majority, so the critics argued that this ban was anti-Muslim, that it targeted only one religion. Eventually, Trump tweaked his travel ban. He added North Korea and Venezuela to the list. And that is how the ban was upheld. This time, he's thought ahead. The list already has several non-Muslim countries, so precedent is certainly on Trump's side. But what about morality? Well, that's a bit more complicated. We don't have a horse in this American race. The people there, the people of America, voted for Donald Trump. And if he wants to ban travel from certain countries, if he wants to be anti-immigration, then it's on them. What worries us is the double standard. For starters, what happens to people in Afghanistan? Many of them helped the US military after 2001. As a result, the Taliban is hunting these people. It is America's moral responsibility to take those people. But this travel ban complicates matters. Secondly, don't beat around the bush. This is a Muslim travel ban. 7 out of the 12 countries targeted are Muslim. A couple of them have sizable Muslim populations. You have sprinkled some Christian countries just to fool the courts. Do remember that when you criticize other countries in the future. When you publish your religious freedoms report, when you sit in judgment of others on how they treat minorities. And finally, ditch the whole land of the free narrative. People in Myanmar or Yemen do not care about your McDonald's or KFC. They are fleeing civil war and violence. People in Libya are fleeing because of your military action, because the US bombed Libya in 2011. So do not pretend to care about the world. Do not make tall claims about freedoms and rights, and do not pretend that you are better than this, because you're not. This travel ban was always the true face of America, isolationist and racist. calls shape the course of history, others just stall it. Like this new phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. The two leaders spoke on Wednesday. It was a 75-minute long phone call, a call that lasted 75 minutes. And of course, they had a lot to talk about, starting with the war in Ukraine. Trump called it a good conversation, but chances are it was a little more complicated than that. They discussed Ukraine's drone strikes on Russian bombers. You may remember seeing this. Ukraine smuggled drones into Russia, guided them with remote controls, and blew up Russian planes. It was their biggest and most daring attack on Russian soil since the war began. The world has been wondering about Russia's response, and now Trump says that Putin will hit back. In fact, let me quote from Trump's post. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. So Trump says the Russian president is planning revenge. And the Kremlin has confirmed this. They say Moscow will decide how and when to respond. So it's confirmed that Russia will retaliate, but it's not clear how. And here's something else that is not clear. What did Trump's phone call achieve? He said it was a good talk, but what is the takeaway? Until a few days ago, Trump was promising peace. Now he's telling the world that Putin will strike. And this is becoming a bit of a pattern. Trump calls Putin but makes no progress. He took office on the 20th of January this year. Since then, he's spoken to Putin 4 times. The first call was on February 12th. It lasted around 90 minutes. A lot was discussed. Both sides called it productive. Then Trump spoke to Putin again in March and May. These two were long calls. In fact, one of these calls was around 2 hours long. So there have been 4 calls in 4 months. But when it comes to actual breakthroughs, the world is still waiting. Meanwhile, on the ground, the war rages on. On Sunday, Ukraine attacked Russian bombers, that too deep inside Russian territory. Estimates suggest that Ukrainian drones took out almost a third of Moscow's fleet. Kiev called the operation a huge success. And just a day later, they blew up a bridge with explosives, a bridge linking Crimea to Russia. It's a vital supply line for Moscow's forces. This is the 3rd time it has come under attack from Ukraine, this bridge. Meanwhile, Russia is still making advances near the border, especially the northern city of Sumy. The Russian forces have taken 2 villages. They've also advanced in the east. Where does all of this leave Donald Trump? Is he still trying to end the war, or is Putin just playing him like a fiddle? When Trump took office, he promised peace on day 1. It's been 4 months since. And in this time, Trump keeps making tall claims and then losing his cool. First, he lashed out at Ukraine. He berated President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to the Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
Well, Trump wasn't so harsh with Putin, but apparently he's disappointed with Russia. He called Putin crazy after Russian attacks last month.
I can say this, that I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that, very, very disappointed.
Trump is worried about the latest attacks that are set back to his ceasefire mission. So he spoke to Putin again for 75 minutes, but couldn't push the needle. Basically, Moscow and Washington are talking more than ever, but the war is nowhere close to an end. And where does it go from here? Russian drone strikes are already hitting Ukrainian cities like Kharkiv. the coming days, things will only escalate. Donald Trump started out this year pledging peace. But 4 months on, the war on the ground is getting bloodier. The promises of peace feel more distant than ever. And the world is on edge, waiting to see what Russia's retaliation will look like. Will it escalate the war further or open a door for negotiations? Right now, it's hard to say. But one thing is certain, the next moves from Moscow will shape the future of this conflict. So Putin plans to strike back. He wants payback for the drones that hit Russia. This week has been all about drone warfare. Ukrainian drones struck Russia twice, first across multiple air bases in Russia and then in Crimea, as we just showed you. Kiev used an underwater drone to hit the Crimean bridge. Now Russia is preparing to respond, and reports say they will do it with Chinese support. Let me show you how. Take a look at this weapon. It is called the Silent Hunter. This is an anti-drone laser system. It was made by China, and now it is in Russian hands. Russian forces are using it to neutralize Ukrainian drones. Why is the Silent Hunter special? It doesn't use missiles to shoot down drones. It uses laser beams instead. And it's quite versatile. This system can be mounted on a vehicle. It can move around with the troops. It can even be operated remotely. The system can detect drones from 5 kilometers away. And once a target is locked, the system fires a laser beam. This beam blinds the drone. It takes out the drone's cameras and sensors. It disables the drone's guidance system. And as the drone comes closer, within 1.5 kilometers of the system's position, the laser switches to destruction mode. It fires with high intensity. The laser beam burns through the drone's frame until it falls from the sky. That is why it is called the silent killer. It is a potent weapon, also cheap to operate. One shot of the silent killer costs around $10. It's not something that Russia can buy off the shelf, though. It is a Chinese-made weapon developed by a company called CASIC, China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. This is a state-owned aerospace company. China's invisible hand clearly is at play in Ukraine again. China is helping Russia close the gap on the drone front. And so far, Ukraine had the edge when it came to drones. It beat Russia in drone production. But the Russian defense industry is now catching up. Ukraine produces 100 long-range drones a day. Russia has managed to scale up its production to 300 a day. It is aiming for 500 drones a day, which is 5 times Ukraine's output. Russia is also building small tactical drones. It is believed to have 2 million of them already. That's almost double of Ukraine's projected capacity. And it was China that helped Russia in scaling up. They provided Russia with a wide range of parts as well as support. Ukraine claims that Russia is sourcing several raw components from China. This includes electronics, navigation systems, optics engines, microchips, telemetry systems, and even processor modules and control boards. Ukraine says all this trade happens off the books. Orders are funneled through shell companies and export loopholes are exploited for deliveries. This is to avoid detection, to avoid potential sanctions from the West, and more importantly, it gives China plausible deniability. Of course, Beijing has dismissed all of these claims. It has called them baseless.
We have made clear China's position on relevant issues, and China is firmly opposed to groundless accusations and political manipulation.
But these pictures suggest otherwise. These are Chinese weapons in the hands of Russian forces. China is helping Russia fill an important gap in their arsenal. So Russia gets the drones it needs, but what does China get in return? Battlefield intelligence. Chinese military officials have been dispatched to Russia. They have been touring Russia's front lines, drawing lessons from the war and learning new tactics. For China, Ukraine is like a testing ground for new weapons and future battlefield technologies. Last month, during Operation Sindoor, Chinese weapons failed Pakistan against India. So the question is, can they help Russia win the war against Ukraine? I guess we'll find out soon enough. It's a big boost for India's defense sector. The Rafale fighter jets will be made in India soon. Not the entire plane, but a very important part of it. This deal was signed between Dassault and Tata. Dassault is the French company that makes the Rafale jets. Tata, as you know, is an Indian multinational. They have an aerospace company called Tata Advanced Systems. This company will set up a plant in Hyderabad. It will produce fuselages for Rafales. Now, a fuselage is a very important part of the plane. It is basically the main body section. Even the cockpit is inside the fuselage. The production is expected to start by 2028. Once at full capacity, this plant can produce 2 fuselages per month. And this is a big deal for India, because until now, all Rafale fuselages were made in France. India will be the first foreign country to make it. And that shows a level of trust and capability. A similar deal was signed last year as well. France's Airbus partnered with the Tata Group. They agreed to produce the H-125 helicopters in India. That plant is being set up in Karnataka. But coming back to the Rafale deal, how does it help India? For starters, we operate the same jets. The Indian Air Force has 36 Rafales. The Indian Navy will get 26 marine versions by 2030. That deal involves some tech transfer as well, which is why this new plant is crucial. Beyond India, other countries also use the Rafale jets, like the UAE, Greece, Egypt, Qatar, Croatia. So the Hyderabad plant will service a huge market beyond India. Secondly, it's all about an opening. Planes are among the most complicated machines to make. If you can ace that, you will open many doors. You can convince other firms to set up shop as well. Same with weapons. They're very complicated to make. But if you ace it, you can attract a lot of investments. In fact, India has been pushing for it. New Delhi is asking Western defense and aerospace firms to set up plants in India, to make in India, to join the Make in India vision. Several projects are being considered, like co-production of America's Javelin missiles and production of Stryker combat vehicles. The key is to get things done quickly. Consider the Javelin project. This missile is made by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. In 2020, they signed an agreement with Bharat Dynamics, which is a state-run defense firm. 5 years later, there is no movement. The US companies are still exploring co-production. And a big reason for that is American politics. They're very cagey about their weapons. They don't easily share technology or co-produce. In comparison, the French seem open to it. And so do the Russians. We told you about this yesterday, about their offer, the Russian offer. They're reportedly open to selling the Su-57 jets to India. In fact, they also offered local production. And India must capitalize on such offers. We must use our market power to secure these deals. Because even today, India is the second largest arms importer in the world. We make up 8.3% of global arms imports. And that gives us bargaining power. Yes, we can buy foreign weapons, but we can also push for tech transfer and local production. This will eventually create a robust domestic defense sector. Last year, India's defense production, defense output, was 1.46 trillion rupees. That's around $17 billion. The private sector made up 22% of this. Exports have also been surging. They crossed $2.7 billion last year. As of now, most of these are parts and small arms. India's mission is to produce cutting-edge weapons like jets, warships, missiles. And that is where deals like the Rafale deal are crucial. They give credibility to Indian production. Let's hope we can build on it.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Checks at major Indian airports. Concerns have been raised over the airline's adherence to international and domestic aviation standards. Inspections took place in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi and Bengaluru. These inspections found that cargo classified as dangerous goods did not have the required permissions from the DGCA for transportation of explosives to and from India. These permissions were neither attached nor referenced in the Dangerous Goods Declaration, which is a significant lapse that was identified at the Bengaluru airport, where the marshaller responsible to guide the aircraft during taxiing was found untrained. Civil Aviation Ministry has now asked Turkish Airlines to address these findings promptly and ensure full compliance with standards and recommendation practices. Anvit now joins us, getting us more details. Anvit, what does this mean for the future of the airlines? Is there any response coming in from Turkish Airlines to these queries that have been raised by the DGCA?
See, no response as such, but the DGCA guidelines are very strict when it comes to dangerous goods, which has recently been found on the Turkish planes that had landed at the 4 of the airports in Delhi, major airports in India. And the guidelines very clearly say that the laid down procedures, they should determine that as far as possible that the associated documentation of the aircraft that is carrying such goods should meet all norms. It has been found that the goods, that undeclared dangerous goods that was on board one of the Turkish Airlines plane, that had not been declared, and it had not been, the competent authorities had not been informed about it. In fact, one of the violations, grave violations, is also that the marshaller competency. Marshalers are basically staff who guide the plane when it is on ground. Their job is to safely and efficiently guide an aircraft when it is grounded. And it was also found at the Bengaluru airport that the marshaller handling ground operations, they lack proper authorization and valid competency for marshalling functions. And in fact, if we talk about the Hyderabad and airport, at both Hyderabad and Bengaluru airport, where Globe Grounds India was providing ground services, it was also found that without formal handover from Celebi, against which the Indian government had recently taken action, it was found that no service level agreement, that is SLA, was in place between Turkish Airlines and its ground handling agent. So these are grave violations that have been noticed in a surprise inspection that was carried out by DGCA between 29th May and 2 June. And this was safety oversight and RAP inspection that was conducted at 4 airports: Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai and Bengaluru. And some grave violations have come before, against which Turkish Airlines officially has not commented so far, but these are important in the wake of the recent comment that Turkey had made, supporting barbaric attacks in Pahalgam, and also the aftermath thereafter that had happened, that tourists from India had, boycotted traveling to Turkey. Then Celebi's contract was also terminated. So following that, it certainly is an important development as far as India-Turkey relations are concerned.
Right, Anvit, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Checks at major Indian airports. Concerns have been raised over the airline's adherence to international and domestic aviation standards. Inspections took place in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi and Bengaluru. These inspections found that cargo classified as dangerous goods did not have the required permissions from the DGCA for transportation of explosives to and from India. These permissions were neither attached nor referenced in the Dangerous Goods Declaration, which is a significant lapse that was identified at the Bengaluru airport, where the marshaller responsible to guide the aircraft during taxiing was found untrained. Civil Aviation Ministry has now asked Turkish Airlines to address these findings promptly and ensure full compliance with standards and recommendation practices. Anvit now joins us, getting us more details. Anvit, what does this mean for the future of the airlines?
Now let's talk about India's electric vehicle industry. It is facing a silent blockade from China. Production could come to a grinding halt. Timelines could get impacted, all because of one small component. We are talking about rare earth magnets. What are these? Rare earth magnets. These are magnets made from special metals. They come from deep under the Earth's surface. They're much stronger than your regular magnets. They're used to make smaller machines and parts, which are then used in a wide range of products, like electric vehicles or EVs. These magnets power EV motors. In wind turbines, they convert wind into electricity. They also go into phones and earphones and laptops and hard drives. So basically, these magnets are part of all modern day machines and tools. And their supply is almost entirely controlled by China. They're hard to extract and expensive to process. China controls 70% of the mines, 70, and nearly 90% of the total production. In other words, China has a virtual monopoly. And now it is using this dominance as leverage. In April, China announced new curbs. It restricted exports of a range of rare earths, from alloys to mixtures. And of course, rare earth magnets. In the last financial year, India bought 870 tons of them. 870 tons of rare earth magnets. They were valued at around 300 crore rupees, which is around 34 million US dollars. But now the industry is struggling to secure these magnets. According to China's new rules, every importer must file a declaration. They must state exactly how the magnets will be used. So the process has become longer and more challenging. Every shipment has to be cleared by the Chinese embassy. And as we speak, more than 30 applications are pending. 30 Indian applications. So the shipments are stuck. The production lines are at risk, and this is affecting manufacturers in India. The worst hit are the makers of two-wheelers. Many of them have no long-term contracts for these magnets. They don't even have backup suppliers, so they face challenging times ahead. If the shipments of magnets do not resume, production could stop by July. And this is more than a supply chain issue. This is a strategic choke point. India has raised the alarm. The Ministry of Heavy Industries is sending a delegation to Beijing. They will try to fast-track clearances. But that's only a short-term fix. In the long term, India wants to build its own stockpile and a domestic supply chain. And reports say the government is working towards it. They're planning incentives for manufacturers. This will take years to scale, but the EV sector does not have that kind of time. They don't have years, they have weeks. The industry has been sounding warnings. In April, the MD of India's biggest auto company spoke. That's Rajiv Bajaj of Bajaj Auto. He said, if China stops magnet supplies, the Indian EV industry could come to a standstill.
And as of yesterday, I still have to verify this, but I was given to believe that suddenly China has decided not to permit the export of heavy rare earth magnets, which are used in motors of electric vehicles, to just two countries, US and India. And as you know, that for some of these EV components, the whole supply chain of the world resides in China.
Exactly.
So if this is true, we are still trying to come to terms with the facts, all the facts. But if this is true, it would mean that, and if it doesn't change, then in a matter of weeks, the entire Indian EV industry will grind to a halt,
Now, this is a serious challenge, and it's not unique to India. Around the world, manufacturers are struggling. Suzuki has already halted production in Japan. This is for their popular car model Swift. In India, too, the auto industry says that the clock is ticking. Again, this is not just trade policy, this is economic pressure. China controls the supply of magnets, and this effectively gives them a kill switch. A kill switch for India's EV ambitions. We all love online shopping. Our digital carts are getting bigger by the day. But here's a question. Did you really choose everything in that cart? Or were you nudged? Maybe even tricked? You see, most of us don't even realize that we are being tricked. These tricks have a name. Dark patterns. And they're everywhere. They're designed to mislead you into clicking, subscribing and buying more than you intended. Most online platforms use these dark patterns, but now the government of India is stepping in. It has issued new guidelines and warnings to platforms. Follow the rules or face the consequences. Our next report brings you the details.
Dark patterns wear many disguises. Sometimes they look like ads, sometimes like free trials, and sometimes like great deals. But the goal is always the same: get you to click and spend. One is disguised ads. You try to download something, but there are multiple download buttons. Only one of them actually works. The rest are fake. They take you to another website, or worse, malware. That's a disguised ad, pretending to be something it's not. Two is forced continuity. You sign up for a free trial of a streaming platform. It asks for your card details, just for verification. But the trial ends, and surprise, you're charged again. The fine print is hidden deep in the terms and conditions. And that's how they get you. Platforms lure users by changing 1 or 2 rupees during trial, and then auto-switch to paid plans. 3 is bait and switch. You see a tablet selling for $100, and it is a great deal. You click on it, but it's out of stock. Instead, they show you other tablets priced at $110 or more. So, you were baited by one offer and switched to another. Now think back to your last few online buys. That gadget, that kitchen appliance, that pair of shoes, were you fully in control? Chances are not always. And these are just a few of the dark patterns out there. There are dozens more. And e-commerce platforms have often been accused of it. Like this example from Mumbai. One man ordered the exact same meal from the exact same restaurant. Once in person, the other time through a food delivery app. The offline bill is rupees 512. The online bill, after discounts, is rupees 690. That is a 34% increase. Delivery apps charge restaurants a commission, often up to 30%. So what do the restaurants do? They quietly raise the prices online. And we, the consumers, end up footing the bill. That's not all. Sometimes, apps show different prices on different devices. For example, 1 kilogram of onions was rupees 43 in an Android phone. On an iPhone, it was priced at rupees 57. In other cases too, the Apple user is shown inflated prices. Ride-sharing apps are also accused of it. 8 in 10 app taxi users report dark patterns like bait and switch. They show you one price when you're trying to book a ride. When you finally go ahead and pay, it's usually higher. 42% of users report hidden charges. So what's the way forward? 2 things. 1, tougher rules and tighter regulation. 2, a level playing field for both online and offline sellers. India already has laws on dark patterns. Violations can lead to penalties of up to rupees 20 lakh and 6 months in jail. But despite all of this, India's digital platforms still riddled with dark patterns. So, India's Consumer Affairs Ministry is cracking down. It has launched an app for customers to report these practices. It has also issued a warning to major e-commerce and digital service platforms. Comply with the guidelines on dark patterns, or there will be legal consequences. So the message is clear. If you're running an online platform, trickery is no longer business as usual. And if you're a consumer, awareness is your first line of defense. Because dark patterns only work in the dark. And the moment you see them, they lose their power. So the next time you're shopping online, pause for a second. Is that a deal or a decoy? A discount or a trap? Because in today's digital world, your clicks are being manipulated. And it's time to click smarter.
Last week, Donald Trump did something that he has done 1,000 times. He waved to the cameras as he stepped off Air Force One. But this time, it wasn't Trump that caught the internet's attention. It was his phone. More specifically, his locked screen. It's a portrait of Trump Finger pointed, chin out, eyes locked, almost like Uncle Sam himself. The photo has since gone viral. Some people have called it iconic, others have slammed it as narcissistic and self-absorbed. Either way, the message was loud and clear. This phone wallpaper was pure, unfiltered Trump. But it has also raised a few other questions, like how do world leaders use their phones? What kind of phones do they carry? Do they even have apps on phones with apps? Do they scroll Instagram at 2 a.m. like the rest of the world? We'll try to answer some of them, starting with Donald Trump, of course. The US president has always had a love affair with his phone, tweets, Truth Social posts, late-night calls to people, and sometimes all three in one go. Now, Trump uses his phone, and his usage of the phone is just as unpredictable as his politics. He's known for using his personal iPhone. More importantly, he receives just about any and every call. He takes all calls. And this is despite multiple warnings by security officials. And that is the reason why he's been prank called multiple times. Reports say right now the US president uses around 2 to 3 phones. One of them is dedicated to social media in case he wants to type out Fifi again. But his predecessors did not have this luck. Like Barack Obama, he had a soft spot for his BlackBerry. But when he became the president, he fought to keep it. Obama finally got his QWERTY keyboard, but the security agencies gutted it. It was almost like a prison pager. In India, the Prime Minister has been seen with many phones, most of them iPhones. But reports suggest it's only to take photos. So how does he communicate? Well, Prime Minister Modi uses satellite or RAX phones. RAX is Restricted Area Exchange Phone. They are untraceable and cannot be hijacked. And while some leaders use just one phone, others have multiple, like former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. He had an iPhone, a BlackBerry, and even a basic Nokia. That's quite a handful to juggle. Yes, that is why the former Dutch Prime Minister ended up dropping his phone in the toilet, according to one report. Former Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra went one step further. She owned at least 5 smartphones. On the other end of the spectrum is the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. He has long claimed that he does not have a phone. Putin says it is because it would never stop ringing. Guess he wants to avoid late-night phone calls from Donald Trump. But the Russian president has been spotted with this, an MTS GLONASS 945. That's Russia's answer to the iPhone. And while some leaders are concerned about security, others are an open book, like former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Look at this report that came out in 2021. Johnson's personal phone number was available in public. It has been listed online for 15 years, just hanging at the bottom of a 2006 press release. National security experts were not amused, but Boris brushed it off. So what do world leaders do with their phones? A lot of it is apparently for official communication, but there are apps that leaders swear by, like French President Macron and Telegram. It may be in trouble in France, but Macron apparently loves Telegram. And who doesn't know about Twitter and Trump? It's a love affair gone wrong. But Trump continues with his streak on X and Truth Social. In the last 132 days, he's posted 2,262 times. For some leaders, phones are a source of relief, like former Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg. She was caught on her phone playing Pokemon Go, and that too in Parliament, proving that even leaders need a little bit of fun to break the tension. So phones are more than just tools for world leaders. They're extensions of their personality, their power, their paranoia. And Trump's lock screen? Well, it's not just a wallpaper, it's a window into the mind of a man who never misses a chance to make it about himself. Let's turn to South Asia, where things are heating up at the border between India and Bangladesh. Yesterday, an Indian border trooper was abducted there, carried away by Bangladeshi villagers. Last month, there was another altercation between border troops of India and Bangladesh. Reports say warning shots had to be fired. Now, we are used to such reports from the western frontier, the border with Pakistan, but what's happening in the east? At the center of the problem is illegal migration. Thousands of Bangladeshi nationals have illegally entered India, and New Delhi is now saying enough is enough. It is pushing these migrants back into Bangladesh. The question is, will this strategy escalate tensions, and why is the Yunus regime in Dhaka not cooperating? Our next report tells you.
This is the border between India and Bangladesh. It's more than 4,000 kilometers long. Porous, forested, and easy to cross. Thousands of Bangladeshis have illegally entered India through this frontier, many in search of a better life. But on this side of the border, there is anger. India has long tried to stem this illegal migration. As long as Sheikh Hasina was in power, they could handle it diplomatically. But with Muhammad Yunus, the tone has changed.
People who are staying in India illegally, or foreigners who are staying in India illegally, whether they happen to be Bangladeshi national or any other national, they will be dealt as per law. We have a large number of Bangladesh nationals here who are required to be deported.
Indian states are rounding up illegal migrants. The process has gathered speed since the Pahalgam attack. These migrants are being transported in Air Force planes. Once near the border, they are handed to the BSF. That's the Border Security Force of India. Here, they're given food and currency, after which they're pushed back into Bangladesh. Since early May, around 2,000 illegal migrants have been pushed back. Another 2,000 returned voluntarily. Many have heard about the crackdown in India, so they prefer to return on their own. These operations may sound simple, but they're anything but. In some cases, they can lead to altercations. Late in May, the BSF had a run-in with Bangladeshi forces. Reports say they had to fire warning shots to calm the situation. The Indian side has not confirmed this alteraction, but if true, it suggests how volatile the situation is. On Wednesday, there was another incident. A BSF trooper was trying to prevent an infiltration attempt, but he was abducted by Bangladeshis in the process. Once the issue came to light, Dhaka's border forces were informed, and within hours, the trooper was returned. These two situations ended all right, but the next one may not. Even the slightest miscalculation could lead to an escalation. So what's the solution? India's policy has been very clear. It has a list of more than 2,000 Bangladeshis ready to be deported. This list has been pending since 2020. Unfortunately, Dhaka has not acted on it. Under Muhammad Yunus, things have gotten worse. His foreign advisor is planning to write a letter to India. The idea is to oppose the pushing in of migrants. Dhaka says there is an official system in place, so illegal migrants can only be returned via that system. The fact is, India's concerns are not new. They date back many decades. But under Muhammad Yunus, Dhaka is turning a blind eye to India's concerns. Hence this situation at the border.
Today is the World Environment Day. This is a global event. It's celebrated on June 5th every year to reflect, to raise awareness about the environment, and to promote sustainability. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Sustainable development does not sound all that sustainable. You need a lot of investment, the right technology, incisive policies, and consistency. It is not easy, so it seems as if nations have a choice: either preserve nature or accelerate economic growth. And we all know how that choice plays out. But tonight we will tell you that there is a third way. You can have both. Because climate projects have big economic benefits. So sustainable development is also smart investment, and I'll tell you how. The World Resources Institute has conducted a study. This is a global research organization. They have analyzed hundreds of climate projects across the world, from infrastructure upgrades to greener cities to health system improvements. And look at what they found. Investing in climate always has a bigger return. How big? The return is more than 10-fold. Meaning, for every $1 invested in climate action, there is a return of more than $10. Let's try to put this in context. The study focuses on a dozen countries across Asia, Africa, and South America. Their total investment in climate at the moment stands at over 130 billion. 130 billion right now. In a decade, they will earn more than $1 trillion in returns. And all sectors will see gains, of course, some more than others, like the health sector. With climate change, health problems are on the rise, like deaths from rising heat. So if countries invest in better health, they will see huge returns. The benefits will be more than 78% than the actual investment, because this investment will save lives. After all, climate action and sustainable development counts every day in all spheres of life. Through more jobs, better health, higher productivity, and stronger economy, which is why sustainability is also good business. It's a good business strategy. From quirky environmentalists to Goldman Sachs, most experts will tell you the same thing. Companies that are sustainable outperform their peers financially. And there are three big reasons why. First, cutting carbon emissions. It saves money. According to the World Wildlife Fund, if US businesses reduce 3% emissions, they could save $190 billion in a year, and about $800 billion in over a decade. Secondly, when businesses reduce waste, they cut economic waste as well, meaning they save money. They increase efficiency, they improve productivity, and they boost profits. Thirdly, having climate goals gives a business more purpose. It is seen as more than a profit-making machine. This helps in the public image. Purpose is important for customers now. It affects their choices. So sustainable businesses often outperform competition. And Unilever has seen this within its company. Its purpose-driven brands have outstripped conventional brands. So sustainability is not just charity, it can be a growth strategy. But despite the world's largest companies using better practices, the health of our planet is depleting. Glaciers are disappearing. There are record heat waves, flash floods are costing lives, and climate change is intensifying. So our company is not doing enough. Well, yes, there is progress, but of course, there is more to do, a lot more to do. Most companies have publicly promised to cut their fossil fuel emissions to become greener. But only 1 in 6 of the world's largest companies is on track to reach these goals. 1 in 6. So do we need more government involvement then? Yes, of course we do. And again, yes, there is progress on that front, but none of us is doing enough. Sustainability is no longer a buzzword, a side project, or a distant concern. We need it to survive, to protect our homes and our economies. So it is good news that what is good for the planet is also good for business.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Checks at major Indian airports. Concerns have been raised over the airline's adherence to international and domestic aviation standards. Inspections took place in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi, and Bengaluru. These inspections found that cargo classified as dangerous goods did not have the required permissions from the DGCA for transportation of explosives to and from India.